Marty, come here. Give my... Marty! Hey, Marty! Get back here. Give my hat. Oh. You chewed my hat again. He chewed it again. Okay, just a second, guys. I'll get this on. Marty chewed my hat. I'm just taking Marty out for a walk here in the Great White North, majestic mountains of British Columbia, Canada. Just me and Marty. Marty, come! I sometimes like to get away on my own, guys, and just go for a little walk in the woods. The human experiment sometimes is a little bit too much for me. Staying socially distanced sometimes is more appealing to me. I'll share a little story with you guys. I went to the bank just about a week ago. It's a weird story. I was walking into the bank. Of course, I put my mask on just before I went in. And as I entered the bank, I hear a woman who's very upset with the teller in the bank. And she's saying, why do I have to? It's my right. It's against my freedoms. And why do I have to cover it? I don't need to cover my face. Why do I have to? It's my right to not cover my face. And she's, of course, in the bank. She's not wearing a mask, which is the rule where I am from now. You're supposed to wear masks at all time. And she was hysterically ranting and screaming at this poor teller who's just working at the bank. And I walked in. There was a couple of people in line. And she was very emotional and yelling about it. And she was looking at everyone and said, why do I have to cover my face? Why do I have to cover my face? Why do I have to cover my face? As she was getting ready to leave and I was coming in, I was the last guy she asked. She says, why do I have to cover my face? And of course, I always like to find the humor in things and come up with material. And I'm wearing my mask and I'm looking at her. And she looked at me, like, why do I have to cover my face? She was ready to leave and I replied. I said, well, why do I have to cover my cock? She looked at me and left. And if you think about it, why do I have to cover my cock? Why does every man have to cover their cocks? If you think about it critically, you realize that there's, out of the 8 billion people on Earth, there's about 4 billion men, and almost all of us, over the age of 4 or 5, have to cover our cocks for our whole life. There's 4 billion men, cocks covered, from like age of 4 till death. Why do I have to cover my cock? And why do you not ever hear, why is there never a man? And this is not a man-woman discussion. It just happens that she was a woman, and I observed this. I'm just using her as an example, but it got me thinking. Like, you never see a guy, because guys have cocks. Okay, I can't make this. This is not a female-male gender discussion. This is just a human behavior discussion. You don't normally hear of a man waltzing into a bank, cock uncovered, saying, I don't have to cover it. I'm in the bank. It is my right to come in here with my cock uncovered. I'm here. I'd like to make a deposit. You know, sauntering in proudly, cock uncovered, dick flopping left and right, freely in the air. We don't do that. Why don't we do that? When did it start that we had to start covering our cocks? If you go way back to the age of the cavemen probably didn't cover their cocks. And you probably would have to admit that we're better off now than in the times of the cavemen. During the caveman ages, it was a shit show, okay? I'm trying to think of what the answer, you know what the answer is? Because we all have to get along. We have to live together. That's why men cover their cocks. It probably started at the time of the caveman. Cavemen did whatever the fuck they wanted. They didn't have any rules. But one day, There was probably one caveman that maybe ate some squirrel that was a little bit off, and he had the farts, and he was fucking farting in the cave all day until finally the other cavemen got pissed off and said, "You stop fucking farting," and they threw him out of the cave. And then slowly over time, it became not very nice to fart in front of others. That was probably the first social rule that was developed, probably by cavemen. And from then on, like throughout the world, we now feel kind of embarrassed if we are amongst other people and we let her rip, right? Like you get in an elevator and there's 5 or 6 people there, and you go in there and boom, you let out a slider and a figgy fizz, and the whole thing starts smelling like shit. You feel embarrassed, right? So you don't do it. Most people don't do that. 99 point. Do you know anyone that farts freely? There's not a lot of free farting going on anymore. And it's just, we develop these social norms. But it's funny because on the one hand we have social norms where half the planet has to cover their cocks, but at the same time, like for our whole lives, but at the same time you'll have one person who is asked by the health authorities to cover her face or his face for a period of 3 minutes while they enter an enclosed public space. And that's so such a ridiculous request, that such an infringement on rights and freedoms, that person is willing to become hysterical and behave in a way that they've never behaved before, screaming, veins on the forehead pulsing, why do I have to cover my face? Like, why do I have to cover my cock? Why shouldn't I fart in an elevator? It's a strange social phenomena that for some reason people react so weird about it. I'm trying to figure out why. I guess it's maybe the changes, new rules. When a new rule or a new suggestion happens, people immediately push back, and it's as if a lot of people just comply and say, "Oh yeah, okay, no problem." You know? Like when seatbelts were made mandatory, at least where I'm from, you used to be able to drive around with no seatbelts. I remember as a kid, you used to get in the back of your dad's car and sit up on the back, wedge yourself against the window at the back on the playing, jumping around, right? Then they made seatbelts mandatory, and a lot of people said, "Oh, okay," and they clipped their seatbelts on, and it was no problem. But a lot of people said, "Are you fucking kidding? I'm not wearing a seatbelt. That's against my rights. Fuck you. I'm not. You can't make me. Why do I have to clip myself in? I prefer to be thrown free." You know, ridiculous. You prefer to be thrown free? Well, we've got some statistics, and out of the last 10,000 people that were thrown free, 9,999 of them were thrown free and died. But people will come up with the most ridiculous arguments, and although I gotta admit, why the fuck do we have to wear seatbelts on a plane? That's it. Maybe we do have to wear, because there's the turbulence and all that shit. I know, it's so confusing for me. All I know is that when I get on a plane in Canada, I have to have a stewardess or steward or whatever they're called, server on, you can't call them steward, it's whatever they're called, those flight attendants telling me, explaining to me how to put on a fucking seatbelt, right? They go through this whole 2-minute diatribe of how you have to clip one thing into the other, and when you want to unclip it, you have to pull the buckle. I'm like, holy fuck, you know? I put on seatbelt like 10,000 times in my life. And then after they tell you how to put it on, they tell you how to put it on again in French. That pisses me off. But the point of it, I've lost my train of thought. What's my train of thought? The point is, we all wear seatbelts now, and no one really complains about it. But at first, it was a struggle getting people to understand that it was for the greater good. Just like I think this covering your face with a piece of fabric is difficult for some people to accept right away, that it's for the greater good. And I think that's where it all comes together. I think that's the answer, right? Back in the old Ugg, the caveman that flatulated a lot, was thrown out of the cave because the other cave people wanted to be able to live in peace. They were sharing the air. And they said, if you're going to keep farting, get the fuck out. And then slowly over time, humans and society as a species evolved into not farting amongst ourselves for fear of being embarrassed and out of respect for others. That's why we wear seatbelts. That's why we don't fart around people. That's why men keep their cocks covered. And that's why we all wear masks now, temporarily, when we go into enclosed areas. Now, this isn't a debate on do masks work. Some people say masks don't work. Who says masks don't work? Waiters. Like, it's not a ridiculous conversation on trying to figure out, because you can analyze it and spin it however you want, right? You could say, well, your ass is covered by a piece of fabric, right? Your ass is covered. You two pieces of fabric. You got your underwear layer, and then you got your pants layer is covering your ass, right? And if you're in the elevator and you let one rip, even though it's covered with two pieces of fabric, within seconds, everyone in that elevator gets molecules that have been ejected out of your asshole, permeate through the air, and are inhaled in their nose. And it smells like shit. So having your ass covered by 2 layers of fabric does not stop the flatulating smell from emanating and dispersing. Now, that's not an argument against mask wearing, but you get my point, right? It's all bullshit. We live in a cloud of bullshit. The real question here is, how is it possible that we've developed into a state now where there are 4 billion men that are willing, after the age of about 4 or 5, to cover their cocks for their whole lives with fabric and not really complain too much about it? Yet, there are people that are so adamantly crazed and obsessed with rage about having to cover their faces for 2 minutes while they go into a bank. That's the real question. It's the social dilemma that's the reason I like to go for walks here on my own and discuss these things and share them with you. And perhaps you can leave some comments and try and explain it to me, or give me your perspective, or where'd Marty go? Marty! Leave some comments. If you like this video, please click the like button. If you dislike this video, if something about it did not sit well with you, please click the dislike button. I'm going to post these whenever the hell I feel like it. And if you want to know when they come out, please subscribe and click the, what is it called? The bell, the notifications thing that lets you know. The lunatics posted another video. And in the comments, let me know what other topics we should discuss together from wherever the fuck I want, whenever I want. It's a free world. I can go for a walk in the woods and say whatever the fuck I want. Marty! Marty! Marty? Mom!